So my brother Nacho, he lives in Fresno. Okay, I live in LA, and it's been that way for almost a decade now. And so the way I would film these Ross videos at the time is I would take a Amtrak to Fresno, and almost every weekend, or almost every 2 weeks, and we would just like stockpile on footage. And then I'd come back here to LA, and then I'd edit it all on my days off for my day job, and that was kind of our process. But that is impossible to scale, right? Especially when you have a day job. You don't live in the same city. So what I thought to myself was like, how can I make a video myself without my brother that will help us grow on the channel? And so I was like I'm scratching my head, and I watched I started noticing like this trend on YouTube, like explainer videos, right? I don't know if you've ever heard of like the YouTube channel Vox. They make these like videos breaking down like really complex political situations in the U.S. or wherever, or just like really random shit. Like I watched a Vox video called why is granite so popular in America? And it was like a 5-minute video that like had you hooked. Like it was so good. It was like produced really well, and I watched it all the way from the beginning to end. And it was literally about granite, like how granite became so popular in American homes. And I thought to myself, damn, I should make one of these for sneakers, right? So with that in mind, I was like, okay, so I want to make these videos. Where do I start? So I made a video called "The Rise of Champion," the clothing company Champion, and it was basically this is the framework for every video ever since I made that video. This process hasn't changed. It started with me just like searching Google for hours on like the history of Champion and how Champion became popular, and just everything Champion or Nike or whatever video or sneaker we're doing at the time. And then I would ingest all that information and then take about a day or two to script it out. And then we would film it with me reading it or my brother. And then the editing is brutal. I don't know if you've seen like Vox videos. They have a whole team behind them, right? They've got like all these animations, and so that's all me, just one guy. I do all the editing. My brother doesn't edit. And so for like 2 minutes of video, it takes me 4 hours. So if you see like a 10-minute video from us, and for every 2 minutes that you're watching, it took me about 2 hours just to edit. That's not including like writing and scripting and recording and all that stuff. And so after that, after like however many hours it takes me to edit a video, which is usually like 3 to 4 days, I make the thumbnail, and usually the title is an afterthought, and then I'll make the title, and then I'll upload it. I usually make the thumbnail the day that we upload the video, and that's sort of the process. It takes about 10 to 11 days for a video. And my friend was like begging me to teach him how to edit, and so he's kind of been my assistant editor. I pay him to like do all the rough cutting, and I pay him to do like just simple stuff like organize, like doing the audio, making sure there's a compressor and nothing's clipping and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love those pieces that Vox does. That it's similar to like their Netflix show Explained, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I would love to get this guy on this show, but one of their he's now, I guess, a former video producer or videographer for them, Johnny Harris. That dude makes some incredible documentary style videos. He did Borders on Vox, which he would travel to different parts of the world and then tell these stories or do reporting on these stories in these interesting countries that had unique or fascinating like border situations. And that was like a series on Vox for like a couple of years that he was doing.
But, yeah, I love him. I love his videos. I'm subscribed to his channel.
Oh yeah.
I watch his stuff for inspiration all the time, and he's really good, man.
Well, it looks
that's definitely
It
like what we're aiming for.
Yeah, no, it looks. I mean, honestly, like I can kind of see the a bit of his work reflected in your work as well. I mean, this is that's
That's
why
flattering.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
So that's very flattering.
Well, it's so impressive what you're able to do as essentially as like a one man band. You know, like you said, you have a friend who's kind of helping you sort through things, but when it comes to like the actual hard process of editing all of this stuff, it's really just you. And another thing too is just like the storytelling aspect to it as well. Like that's to me, for me, from like a writing perspective, piecing together a narrative and framing all the different disparate parts into something that's cohesive and tells like an actual story is one of the hardest parts of creating content, whether it is written or video or even audio now with some of these audio podcast documentaries that you have. I mean, that's something that you're just doing essentially through trial and error, right? Like just practicing and seeing, okay, does this idea fit here, or should this idea maybe be a little bit later in the video?
I think now it's there's literally a template, like because I've done it so many times. I just know how it's gonna go. Like there's all like if I hired you to be my writer, I could tell you, you know, like, all right, like, so there's not that much story behind this shoe. It doesn't have that much cultural relevance. So I need you to expand on, you know, like, on the technical aspects of the shoe and branch off on the history of the brand instead of the shoe. Like, because, you know, like for example, we recently did a video on the history of the Vapor Max, and it's not a very old technology. It's only been around for like 3 or 4 years. And that's what we did. We expanded on like its technological features, and we kind of had to just like beef up the story or the script behind the. Sometimes you can't even figure out like who designed the shoe, and it's very hard to tell a story about like a product when you don't have like any context. So there's a lot of shoes that like I've wanted to do, and I like there's a lot of Adidas shoes that there's just Adidas has no. For one, they don't have any kind of. I mean, they do, but they're not an American brand, right? So, but they don't really have a lot of. Besides like Run DMC, and like, you know, 80s hip hop and stuff. They don't really have a lot of like big cultural moments in America. Definitely in Europe for sure. Probably a bunch of stuff that I don't even know about, but it's like I wanted to do like a history of like the Adidas Samba or the Adidas Gazelle. And it's really challenging because there's not really that much history behind it. Like you could talk about the history of Adidas as a whole, and that's interesting, but like, I mean, it's literally just like a, you know, a suede shoe with the 3 stripes that was made for training, and that's it. Like who designed it? I don't know. Like and what's the story behind the person who designed it? We don't know. Like it's really hard to, and I find myself committing to shoes or brands for a video, you know, like we're going to do the history of this shoe, and then there's like no information on, there's no storytelling behind it, and you kind of just have to like, you almost have to like, it's almost like gas supply on your car. Like you only have this much story, and you've got to like take one block of the storytelling of the story that you have, like, and just expand it as much as you can. Like if you know who designed the shoe, that's a good like 300 words. You can be like, you know, John designed the Adidas Samba. John grew up in blah 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 blah. He has experience in blah 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 blah. And this is how you kind of expand on something as bland as like a shoe that. Does this make any sense? Am I just rambling here?
No, it makes sense to me, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely it's definitely a challenge at times to weave in a story, but we figured it out, and now there's a process, and we have tools to like to make it happen, as opposed to like before I would be scared to take on a project if there wasn't like a pre-existing like 20-page article on the internet about it that had like, you know, information, or a good Wikipedia, because there's definitely shoes out there that are people want us to do, and it's just like, dude, there's not enough information on that shoe. Like, I don't know what to talk. We get a lot of requests for the Air Max big window, and it's a cool shoe, but I just don't know. I don't know how I could make that into a story that's 10 minutes or 7 minutes. You know what I mean? It'd be more like 3 minutes. So you gotta like package it in a certain way, like a history of like obscure Nike shoes or something like that, and then it's a story. You know what I mean?